Hey, what is up guys? My name is Matt and welcome to another one of my videos. So today I thought we'd go in a different direction. This is basically my version of a transgender informative kind of video, and I'm going to be going over questions that you should and should not ask to a trans guy. These are all opinion of mine as well. Like, there's some transgender people out there who would be okay answering things, and then there's some who wouldn't want to answer as much as I do. So it's all a matter of the person you're talking to, but this is just an idea so you guys get an idea of what to say. So what I'm going to do in this video is basically I'm going to ask the question and then I'm going to answer it from a general point of view, why it's good to ask, why it's bad to ask, and then I'm going to have an annotation pop up where I will voice my opinion on the matter and answer from myself, okay? I'm doing it as an annotation because there's probably people out there who aren't as bothered as what I've got to say to it, and they just want a quick idea of questions to ask for their friends and family. So this is why I'm doing it this way. I hope you guys enjoy, I hope you guys give this video some love. If you do and you really want to help the channel out, like this video, comment down a question that you'd like to ask me if you want, and just like and subscribe if you're new, all that kind of good stuff. Alright, let's get into this shit. Hey dude, you're transgender, right? Yeah. Well, mind if I ask a few questions? Sure. Right, so guys, let's just wait a minute. These are gonna be bad questions to ask somebody. All these questions are a no. Don't ask a trans person these because they are rude, they're offensive. But if you ask a trans person some of these questions, they could end up getting annoyed, really hurt, really offended, and you wouldn't want that to happen. Dude, aren't you just gay or a lesbian or something? This thing is something that really bothers me. I mean, I have been called a lesbian on multiple occasions, and it's just rude and it's not right, and for a fact, I'm not a lesbian, I'm straight. And same as any trans guy who's into girls is straight. If a trans guy is into guys, then they're gay. It's not really hard, it's basic, just basic shit. Like, you know, straight and gay, lesbian, you know this kind of stuff. And if a trans guy wants to be gay, then it's his right. And I don't think it's acceptable that people turn around and say, well, if you're gay, why didn't you just stay as a girl and you could have been straight? But it doesn't work like that. It really doesn't. People feel comfortable being trans. The reason that people come out as trans is because it's who they are, it's who they feel comfortable with, it's who they feel happy being. And what's the point of staying as a certain gender that you aren't happy with? What's the point of staying with the gender that you hate, that you don't feel comfortable with, that you're not happy with? There's no point, and it's sad to think that people are trying to make people stay as the gender they're born with because they want them to be straight or something. It doesn't matter whether you're gay, lesbian, straight, whatever, just be who you are. No, but seriously, what's your real name? No, dude, the name that you were born with. What's your real name? This one is another one that just gets on my nerves so much. I get asked this all the time. What's your old name? What's your real name? And this is something that you do not want to ask a trans person because it is offensive. What does it matter what their old name was? What does it matter what they were born as? It doesn't matter one bit whatsoever. Just because that's who they were in the past doesn't mean that's who they are now. And I can tell you from experience that being a girl before and being a bloke now is completely different. I was completely different in each life basically, and things were completely different. I've never felt comfortable being as that. But guys, don't ask a person what their real name is. It's as if somebody who's trans going up to you and saying, what's your real name? And then you giving them your name and them turning around and saying, oh, isn't it this? Isn't it that? Because it's not. It really isn't. And my real name's Matt, okay? It's nothing else. It may have been something else in the past, but it doesn't mean that it's something else now. So, do you have tits and vagina or a penis? Which one is it? This question kind of can freak a lot of trans men out, because as a trans guy who hasn't had an operation or something, the majority of them won't have a penis, or they might not have had any surgeries whatsoever, so they might still have their old female body, and it's just so hard for them to take things like this. Alright, so guys, don't ask a trans guy if he has a penis, don't ask him what genitalia he has, don't ask him anything like that, because it's just gonna hurt, it's gonna be offensive, it's gonna be hurtful. No matter how you ask this question, it's gonna hurt them. And what does it matter to somebody who's not gonna be with them in a romantic way? Then it's not gonna matter what kind of genitalia they have. So why even ask? If it doesn't bother you, then you don't need to know. So then how do you have sex? Because it can only be done one way. You have sex like anyone has sex. It's sex. I've been asked this before, and I just question it each time. Like, how can you ask me how I have sex? It's like asking you how you have sex. It's sex. Work it out. I don't need to go into detail on how to have sex, okay? Which bathroom do you use? Asking a trans guy what bathroom he goes into is a really stupid thing to do. If you know this person associates as being male, then it's quite obvious they're going to go into the male bathroom, because it's who they are, it's who they look, it's who they come across as, it's who they are, so of course they're going to go into the male bathroom. Are you just a drag queen or a transvestite or something? I personally have not been asked this question before, but it's something that I know a lot of trans guys out there or trans women can get asked, and it's extremely offensive. A drag queen and a transvestite are completely different things, and they don't have anything to do with being transgender. Being transgender means that you are not the gender that you were born with. You do not associate with what you were born with. But being a drag queen and a transvestite is more or less dressing up as a different gender, but you still associate with the gender you were born as. It's a completely different thing, and it's rude and offensive to ask a trans guy. Are you gonna transition back? I know trans people have transitioned back in the past, but it's a very, very, very rare thing. And to ask, are you or when are you going to transition back, it's extremely rude, because being trans is not a phase. It's something that people have felt their entire life. Even if they've just felt it and realised that it's what they are later on in life, it doesn't matter, it's who they are. And you can't say to them, are you going to transition back? Because they're not going to. Most likely they're not going to. It's who they are. Being trans is not a phase, okay guys? Do you miss being a girl? Oh God, I hate this question. Do you miss being a girl? Obviously not. Because if a trans guy missed being a girl, then they would probably transition back to being a girl. And it's such a stupid thing to ask. I mean, yeah, you're gonna miss it in some aspect because that's who you've grown up being, but at the same time, it's not who you are. It may have been what you grew up on the outside as, but it's not what you've grown up on the mind like, and it's just rude and offensive, and you just don't ask whether they miss being their old gender, because they're gonna say no. Of course they are. They're not gonna miss being their old gender. They're gonna miss certain parts of it, but they're not gonna miss being that gender. They're just gonna think back to childhood and things like that. But a lot of the things in childhood, you could have been male, female, and you'd have still had the same experiences. So you can't ask somebody if they miss being a different gender. It's like me asking you, do you miss being a girl when you're a guy? Or do you miss being a guy when you're a girl? You're gonna say, no, I've never been that way, because that's what it's like for a trans person. They may have appeared that way, but on the inside they've never been like that. Alright guys, these are some of the things that are perfect to ask. These are the questions that I say go out and ask a trans guy. Ask them as much as you want, because these are the things that you're going to most likely want to ask them to get answers, ideas, and if they trust you enough, they'll open up about the rest of the stuff in time. But these are the top 3 ones to ask, okay? Dude, what made you realise you were trans? I can't answer this for a lot of people, but people have experiences, they have certain events that happen, that occur, which leads them to know who they are, to realise what they've been all this time. Because from experience from me, I was at a time at one point where I thought, I am not the gender I was born with, but I'm not sure where I am. And a lot of other people out there might feel that feeling, and then they might look into details of LGBT and they might realise, oh, I must be trans, I might be trans, let's try this out and see how it goes. But this is a good question to ask a trans guy, because it will open up the barrier between you two, and it will let them know that you're trying to be there for them, that you're trying to be respectful, but you want to know more about them, you want to know what is going on for them and how they've realised what they are. What pronouns and names should I use to call you? So I want to be as respectful as possible. This is probably the best question to ask a trans guy, because this tells you what to call them, and this tells them that you care enough to know what to try and call them. And it's a really respectful thing to do, rather than calling them something wrong and hurting their feelings. How can I support you in your transition? This is another thing that's good to ask, because this tells the other person that you're there for them, that you care for them, and that you want to help them in their transition, and that you just want to be there as a best friend or a family member, and you do care for them. So it's always a good thing to say. Alright, these are questions I put in the grey area. That means that for some transgender people, they'll be easier to answer, and they'll think, oh yeah, this is easy to answer. And then there's some trans people that will think, oh no, I don't feel comfortable answering this. Why did you choose the name Matt? So why did you choose your name? Why did I choose my name? Well, it's all a matter of different things go into it, because everyone is different, guys. Everyone is completely different on this matter. People sometimes choose a name that is close to what they were born with. Sometimes they choose a name that's completely different. Sometimes they choose a name that means a lot to them. Sometimes they pick a name and they change it because they want to find the perfect name for them. But either way, they're gonna find a name that they like, and when they tell you that name to call them, then you try your hardest to remember it and to call them that. I mean, I still know people now after about 2-3 years who can still mix up my name with the old one, so you've got to be patient with people as well. This is for trans people as well. You do have to be patient, because there are some people out there who are going to take a lot longer to know what to say and things, okay? Are you planning to have any surgery by any chance? This is a question that I can see a lot of people getting offended by, but for me, this isn't a question that offends me. This is a question that makes me think, oh, you're interested, you want to know more about being trans, you want to know more about what goes into it. So I'd say this is a really good one, because if you're open like me, you can tell people about getting into testosterone, when you can start that. You can tell people about what operations you want, because for certain trans guys, they might not want top surgery, they might want top surgery, they might want bottom surgery, they might not want bottom surgery. It's all a matter of opinion. Some people don't want testosterone. It's just what the person wants. It's different for everyone. Sorry if this is a bit personal, but do you use a binder, a packer, an STP, anything like that? This is another one that I feel quite open with telling people. People ask whether you wear a binder to bind your chest, or they ask you whether you wear a packer. A packer is basically a dick to give you the aesthetics of having a bulge. And you can get packers that are STP, which means it allows you to stand up and pee in a toilet, in a urinal, and you can get packers that allow you to have sex and all that kind of things, and it'll depend on each trans guy. For instance, some trans guys might wear a binder where others might not. Some might use a packer and some might not. It all depends on the trans guy. How did your family and friends react to you coming out? This is a question that will forever be in the middle. You don't know how the person is going to react until you actually ask this question, because it's such a personal question. I'd say if you ask this question, make sure you're comfortable with the guy you're asking it to. Make sure that you have already spoke about trans things or you're in the midst of doing it, and just try to be as polite as possible when you ask this, because you never know what they're gonna say. They might say something like, oh, my family have been ever so supportive and I love them for that. Or it might be a lot different, because they might have a family that don't actually appreciate them, who don't actually agree with it. And so it's a really hard thing to ask. But I'd say just make sure you know the trans person first. Alright guys, this is my video on questions to and not to ask a trans guy. I thought this would be really helpful because I was looking on the internet and there weren't like a massive amount of these videos, and I thought I would spend the time today to make a video as in-depth as I can. But if you guys have any other questions, let me know down below and I will answer them all for you, okay? So don't be afraid to ask me a question, because as offensive as it is or as polite as it is, I will try my best to answer. But for those who are being offensive and being rude for no reason, I will delete your comments because it's not right, especially not for trans people. Alright guys, go spread peace, love, all that kind of good stuff, and subscribe if you're new, if you like my content, and I would really appreciate if you turn notifications on with that too, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!